this connecting web that connects us all, that ultimately is true, that we are one. We are one in our divine inheritance, in our shared divine experience here on this earth as divine beings, as spiritual beings. So that connection is, sometimes it's very, very fluid. Sometimes we're really right with it. Our heart and our head are connected, and we our behaviors and the things we say and the things we do are in line with our spiritual self. And when we're doing that, we're swimming in God's ocean. Everything's cool. Everything's in harmony. Everything is the peace that we want to see in the world because we are at peace with ourselves. So there's this understanding, spiritual understanding about that, getting to that place. But some days, we just kind of, fall to the wayside, or we get distracted by numerous things. It's just being human is just part of that experience. So the work on a daily basis is to stay as connected as we can with our spiritual identity, our spiritual selves. And how do we do that? Well, there's a lot of different tools that we use. We use prayer and meditation to gain access to our higher spiritual self. The second wife of Charles Fillmore, Cora, had this to say about spiritual understanding. Cora was Charles's second wife after Myrtle passed away. And she wrote a supplement to Charles's 12 Powers called Christ Enthroned in Man. And I like Cora's writings because she's pretty succinct and to the point. Her language, of course, is a little dated for today, but you'll still, I think, get the gist of what she's saying here. And I quote, "In the beginning of spiritual unfoldment, divine understanding may seem to be operating in a dim light, to be clouded, indistinct, indecisive. But within each of us is a spiritual law of light, understanding, that if we industrially affirm it, we develop in us the power to use the attributes of God and to understand their place and their work in the deity. Spiritual understanding enables the consciousness to see and to feel spiritually. Spiritual understanding gives the clear insight into everything. It remolds the mentality, and it inspires the will to direct, to act, and to control." So the bridge that we want to cross to understanding is the bridge to spiritual understanding, as opposed to our intellect, and where things are logical and we use reason, and that's fine and well. And we're dealing with what Charles called the sense consciousness, the material world, sight, see, sound, hearing, taste, and smell. Here, we'd make that distinction for our work as spiritual beings to remember to stay connected to our divine inheritance and to see that not only in ourselves, as I said before, but to see it in everyone and in all things. We live our lives on a daily basis, and we all, in some form or another, have relationships with a spouse, with children, with friends, and the larger family, the larger society. And we can improve our relationships by remembering that we are the light of Christ, the divine light. We are spiritual beings. And so I remember the popular phrase back in the 60s was, well, we're going to raise some consciousness here. We can do some consciousness raising. Well, consciousness raising is something that I think we do every day. That's our work, is to raise our consciousness or to maintain consciousness. And it is work. It's so hard because we're faced with challenges. I like the word that is used in some of the Unity literature, rather than calling the devil or Satan, anything like that. That's old biblical kind of terminology. They use the word adversary, something that is adverse to keeping us from achieving our highest good or our higher good. So that's, I look at those as the challenges, the impediments, the blockages that keep us from a higher understanding of our spiritual self. So this is the work, the adversary, those things that are opposed to the things that we really truly desire for our spiritual health and spiritual growth. So with the techniques, we pray, we meditate, we strive to be better human beings while we're here. One of our many lessons is to understand not only our spiritual nature, but sharing it with everyone else and seeing their spiritual nature. And we arrive at a higher sense of unity when we're looking at things through that lens of understanding, that bridge towards spiritual enlightenment along our journey. It's a wonderful thing. But it's work. It's not easy. There was a nice article that I came across from my Reverend Sharon Connors, and I'd like to quote from her a little bit here. She says, opening to understanding. How do we spiritualize our understanding? Start by praying to see beyond troubling appearances, situations, and circumstances. Ask to understand the person or situation from a spiritual perspective, to be willing to see it differently. Pray to see the person or situation differently. Call on the powers of love, forgiveness, compassion, and release to inform your thinking. Let go of any person or situation troubling you into the alchemy of divine energy. Just think about something else. Stay steady in your release until you feel some sense of peace and notice that your perspective has shifted. We talk about releasing those things that no longer serve us. Those are those blockages, those adversarial issues, our negative talk in ourselves that we constantly have to work with in terms of, as the Buddhists say, our interiority. As Solomon prayed for an understanding heart, for an understanding heart, so can we. Step by step, its manifestation will create healthy, harmonious relationships, along with seeing the circumstances of our lives in the most helpful, life-enhancing, peace-producing way. We are what we think. Hello. So how do we practice this understanding? And Ms. O'Connor suggests this. 1, for the next 21 days, pray for an understanding heart. Notice any changes in your thinking or experiences. 2, consider someone in your life who is difficult to love. Look beyond what makes the person difficult to love and find a reason for their behavior that awakens your compassionate understanding. 3, what would an understanding heart empower you to see more clearly, judge more kindly right now? And these are steps that are like bridges. We can, if we stop and be present, we can use these exercises to lead to a higher understanding of other people that are challenging, that are adversarial. This bridge of love, compassion, empathy. What's the saying? Walk a mile in the person's shoes. You can see it from their perspective. Leads to a greater understanding, more empathy in terms of the challenges that someone else may be going through, or going through some of the same adversarial things that you're going through or have gone through. And maybe perhaps if the situation is right, you can share your experience. And that's part of that wisdom aspect, but also you're doing it in the light of spiritually understanding where that other person is, because they are also on their same spiritual path as you are. It's like, I always like the analogy of stepping stones. You take one step, you look around, take another step, you look around, and all of a sudden perspectives start to change. You gain distance on things. You can see things in a bigger picture. Take another step, it shifts, another step, it shifts. But it's the willingness to take each step that keeps us going towards our highest good in terms of our spiritual work and our spiritual journey that we're on here. And I think when we're open with our hearts and our minds and receptive to our fellow human beings, we can move the whole condition of our humanness to a higher level. As Charles Fillmore likes to say, we can regenerate ourselves and cause that regeneration to embolden and enlighten the rest of humankind by being an example of a light, not suppressed, not hidden under a bush, but we let our lamp shine. We exemplify the Christ in us, as well as bringing forth the Christ in everybody else through consciousness raising. We shift our consciousness, and that's the work. You know, it's if anything, my personal mission is to try to be the best person, the best Christ I can be. And as a student of Unity, I think that's all of our goals, is to be better people and to evolve and to regenerate. It's like even our bodies reflect that in terms of its ability to regenerate its cellular structure on a subatomic level. Our bodies are incredible instruments. If we give them half a chance, it all starts up here. You know, we are what we think. I am a potato. I am a gazelle. You know, and if you think about that long enough, yes, you will be a gazelle, or you'll be a potato. You know, it depends on your choices that you make. And that is the day-by-day thing we're dealing with here. What choices are we making? What bridges are we choosing to connect to, you know, in terms of understanding our spiritual nature? So the choice making is very important. I'm going to read one more short article here. This is from a Unity favorite, Winifred Wilkinson Hoffman. She has a little thing called Build on Something to Stand On. Understanding is important in developing our spiritual nature because it is the faculty that puts feet under our prayers and gives our spiritual activity something to stand on. Blind faith, understanding of the spiritual laws may get results on occasion, but our spiritual growth demands a base that is more dependable, understanding that is grounded in spiritual truth. As we know, the disciple for the power is Thomas, the doubting Thomas, and he is the disciple who stands for the faculty of understanding. A study of his contact with Jesus gives us some insight into the way we must develop our own ability to think and learn to make deductions and draw conclusions so that we may awaken the spiritual quality in us. Thomas didn't always have spiritual understanding, but he wanted to learn. He didn't mind asking questions. He listened to Jesus's answers. Thomas is probably best known for doubting the news of the resurrection when he heard it secondhand from other disciples. Jesus respected Thomas's need to know firsthand. As you remember in the story in the Bible, that he looked at Jesus's wounds and he touched them, and he came to believe. She goes on to say that understanding begins with questioning. The awakening of our own faculties of understanding starts with questioning the old ways of thinking that we may be taking for granted, releasing those things that no longer serve us. The desire for understanding leads to thinking about what is learned and seeking to put it all together in a body of information that will provide a basis for living. So when we focus on that foundation of spiritual understanding, you know, we talk here in Unity about things being in divine order. Well, when you're in a place of spiritual understanding, or at least have a basic foundation of that, things flow. You get into more of the divine flow of things, the circulation of God and divine presence always working in all things, with your relationships, circumstances. You see it happening, and it will manifest if we are in the right frame of mind. We were thinking, not setting things right, but seeing things right, as the saying goes. And Williamson goes on to say, understanding is different from wisdom. Charles Fillmore defines wisdom as intuitive knowing, spiritual intuition, and understanding as the ability of the mind to apprehend and realize the laws of thought and the relation of ideas one to another. To put it more simply, wisdom knows, understanding knows why. And when your understanding is developed in both head and feet, not only will you have the light in mind, but you will also have the ability to apply it in your world. And that's important because of some of the beliefs we have in unity about, some people, we like to think of unity as, the church of practical Christianity, where we take metaphysical truths and apply them to practical situations. And other denominations within Christendom is called unity practically Christianity, because we're pretty open-minded about a lot of things, and we accept a lot of different wisdom traditions that integrate into our teachings and trying to understand our spiritual natures. And we want to take into account all facets of what other wisdom traditions perhaps might give us insight, which is a part of our spiritual understanding, comprehension. We've heard the saying, all roads lead to the top of the mountain. Well, that's great, that's true, but it's also important to remember that you're on the right mountain. And and it's like some people can follow directions, some people can't. Some people can read signs, some people ignore them. But so that's a matter of discernment, and understanding comes from that discernment and making those choices that lead us and lead all of us to a higher good, not just tomorrow, but today and every day. When you live your day in seeking the essence of things, things become my life becomes more enhanced. True colors really come out. You can see beyond the differences in individuals and rise till we come together in unity, because you recognize and honor the spiritual light in each and every one. The Hindu saying is namaste. I salute and honor the spirit within you. It's so ingrained in the culture that it's just a kind of a given fact. But it's a nice kind of, a trigger point to start things off on a good footing, I guess, despite maybe an adversarial situation. So today, this day, the day we have right now, I invite you to kind of dust off your old ways of thinkings and examine the way you respond to adversarial situations, and look for that bridge that leads you to a higher spiritual understanding of the unity of all of us, and how we're all connected despite our differences, or seemingly appearing differences. But that's just an example of the wondrous creation that our Creator has made manifest in this world. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and go into our meditation. So I invite you to find that place within you. We'll start with some deep breaths. Breathe in deep and release. Breathe in deep again and release. And one more time. Breathe in and release. The meditation I'm reading from is from Linda Martin Keller. Wincet from Divine Audacity. We come to this place where we can be still and let divine presence flow into us and flow out of us. Immerse all around us. We abide in divine presence. Centering my awareness above my brow and inward to the front of my brain. I locate the physical seat of spiritual understanding. I inhale and exhale intentionally, drawing breath into this area of my brain responsible for logic, mental association, planning, and impulse control. I shine the light of understanding, precious golden threads throughout my frontal lobes, cleansing my brain and clearing foggy thinking and misunderstanding. I am the power of understanding, listening to my life and making meaningful connections between my experiences, thoughts, beliefs, and feelings. I comprehend my essential eternal nature as I pause in this moment of stillness. I sit in the silence for a little while. I call forth from within my realization ability at ease, knowing that flashes of awareness may come as I arise from the silence or as I move about my day. I am spiritual insight, seeking beneath the words and actions of others their true spiritual nature and my own. Compassion is the fruit of my insight. Understanding oneness, I act in ways that foster unity. Divine understanding is my spiritual name and nature. Through my complementary powers of understanding and will, I am willing to understand. I'm willing to suspend judgmentalness about others and myself, and to understand the divine intentions underneath each appearance. I am divine understanding. By the power of understanding, I learn from my life. By the power of understanding, I learn from the one mind through which I realize eternal truths. I am divine understanding. Stay in this moment of stillness. Let your spiritual understanding go deep. Let it touch your core of your spiritual identity. We refresh and are renewed through this moment of stillness. We thank Divine Presence for the many gifts, the ability to stay open, to release those things that no longer serve us, as we truly move towards a higher spiritual understanding of ourselves and of others. Thank you, Mother, Father, God, divine creator. We are truly, truly blessed. So it is, so it was, and so it shall be forever and ever. Amen. Okay. Well, I hope you all understood that. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Where's the, I'm the tech guy too, huh? Sorry. I'm not sorry. I'm just, here we are. Everyone knows this, right? Let's say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And let us all stand and form a circle if we can.